Walters is the place to be this Saturday. The DC Defenders play at 3 p.m. at Audi Field, and the Nats host the Mariners at 4, plus the World Cup is on all day. Walters is located across the street from Nationals Park, just off South Capitol Street.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Now the pitch, swing and a ground ball right side through, a base hit into right field. Here comes Nuñez around third. Throw coming from Lee to the plate is offline. He scores standing. Vivas heading for second, and he's in there safely on the throw home. And it's now the Nationals 6 and the Giants nothing.
1-0 to Devers. Now the pitch. Swing a high fly ball, center field and deep. Back goes Young. Onto the warning track at the 391 mark. He climbs the wall again, and it's gone again. So Devers homers. It's now the Nationals 9 and the Giants 3. Here's the pitch. And it's in the dirt. Gets away from Ruiz. Runner comes home, and Ruiz can't pick it up. Sliding in to score is Susak on the wild pitch. Giants have scored 5. It's now 9-6 Nationals. The wind to the 3-2. Swing a long drive left field for Meade. Way back goes Haas. He can only watch it. It is long gone. That turns out to be kind of a big home run. The Nationals with an insurance run here in the top of the 9th on the home run by Meade. Bases loaded, no outs, 2-0 the count. Pitch to Eldridge. Swing a high drive, right field, deep toward the corner. Cruz back on the warning track. It's gone! Eldridge flips the bat to the sky. And the Nationals have lost a game they led 9-1. A walk-off grand slam for the lifetime Nationals fan. He absolutely kicks them in the stomach with a dagger. He flips his helmet away. He hops into home plate. The Giants have won it 11-10 on a walk-off grand slam by Bryce Eldridge. This is one of the all-time losses in Nationals history.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He is at Oracle Park in San Francisco, where the Washington Nationals on Wednesday suffered a nightmare of a loss. It is amazing how baseball can be. The Nats late night on Monday night had arguably their best win of the season, a 4-3 win at the San Francisco Giants in a game in which the Nats overcame a 3-1 ninth inning deficit by scoring 3 runs in the top of the ninth. But the Nats on Wednesday had definitely their worst loss of the season, an 11-10 walk-off loss at the Giants, denying the Nats a 3-game sweep. This was a game in which the Nats blew a 9-1 eighth inning lead and a 10-6 ninth inning lead. The Nats, at various points in the top of the 8th, had a win probability per Baseball Savant of 99.8%. Yes, 99.8%. And yet the Nats lost the game. It is times like this that we are here for each other. Consider this installment of the podcast a group therapy session. It is brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website at tabletomat.com. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. You can call Table to Mat at 240-388-2206. So the Nats did just complete a 4-2 trip out west. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season are 35-34 with a run differential of +7. There is not a Nats fan on the planet who would not have signed up for all of this given the ultra-low expectations for this team this season. But Mark, what happened on Wednesday was brutal.
It was brutal, Al. It was historic. This was the first time in franchise history, that includes the Expos, that they had blown an 8-run lead in the 8th inning or later. That's how rare of an occurrence this is that it literally had never happened to this franchise before. So when you say it was the worst loss of the year, it's arguably the worst loss in team history. Now, maybe the stakes for some of the losses they've had over the years have been a lot greater than this one. But just the pure game itself, where it stood with only 6 outs to go and where it ended, they've never done this before. And Blake Butera called it probably the toughest loss he's ever been a part of. And you can understand why. You just don't see this kind of thing happen with any kind of regularity.
And I told them, this one should sting. This will probably be our worst loss of the year. It's one of the worst losses I've been a part of.
It's almost hard to believe that it did happen. And yet at the same time, and I don't know how it felt watching it from afar on TV, but watching it in person, you did kind of feel things moving in that direction. And maybe you said to yourself, okay, they're going to make this a little too interesting, a little too close for comfort. Maybe you didn't really think they were going to blow it all the way. But as soon as that 8th inning started and the first couple batters get on and then a couple runners start to score, you do say to yourself, is there a chance they could take this all the way to the worst possible outcome? And the answer was yes, they could.
They did. Now, when Curtis Mead homered in the top of the 9th, I said to myself, all right, that's going to slam the door shut. I mean, the Nats have put up 10 runs. You don't score 10 runs and lose, even when your pitching staff isn't the greatest. Well, the Nats did lose this game. The Giants scored 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th and 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th. And, there's no mystery as to what lost the game for the Nats. Their relief pitching, which was horrendous. 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 10 runs in 2 innings. Paxton Schultz officially allowed 5 runs in 1 inning. He tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th despite issuing a walk and giving up a single, but he then got charged with 5 runs in the Giants' 5-run 8th, during which he gave up 2 home runs and a double and issued 2 walks. Orlando Rebolta officially tossed a perfect inning. He faced 3 batters and got 3 outs, but he and that Giants 5-run 8th did allow 2 inherited runners to score, including issuing a 1-out run-scoring wild pitch to cut the Nats' lead to 9-6. Gus Varland, he officially allowed 3 runs without recording an out. He and the Giants' 5-run 9th faced 3 batters and got no outs. He began the bottom of the 9th by giving up back-to-back doubles and then issuing a walk. And then Nats manager Blake Butera went to Mitchell Parker, who, as we know by now, has not been good, and he again was not good. He was entrusted with a high-leverage spot, and he again failed in the high-leverage spot. He officially allowed 2 runs without recording it out. He and the Giants' 5-run 9th faced 2 batters. To the first batter he faced, gave up an opposite field single by Jung-Hoo Lee through the left side of the infield on a 1-2 pitch to load the bases. And by the way, Jung-Hoo Lee, impossible to get out throughout this series, one of the hottest hitters in the majors. And then Parker gave up a walk-off grand slam by Bryce Eldridge to right field for an 11-10 Nats loss. And what a moment for Bryce Eldridge. He's from the Washington, D.C. area, grew up rooting for the Nats, went to James Madison High School in Vienna, Virginia. But yes, not just a walk-off loss, but a walk-off loss on a grand slam. So let's get to the question that I'm sure everyone is wondering about, and that is, why Mitchell Parker in that spot? Was he the only reliever available? What was the thought process in having Parker pitch in that spot?
Why Mitchell Parker? He was essentially the only guy left. And truly, I don't even think they wanted to go there. The plan was for Gus Varland to be the last man on the mound. And as you said, he didn't retire any of the 3 batters he faced. And he really looked like he was overthrowing. He didn't look right at all. Now, I could make the case, just stick with Varland, sink or swim with him. It's still a 3-run lead with 2 on and nobody out. I don't know that the lefty-righty matchup at that point really matters. As you have pointed out, as we've discussed a lot, Mitchell Parker in high-leverage spots, this has not worked out anything close to it. And so that was the moment to me that I thought, yeah, there's a good chance they're going to blow this, because this is just not the spot that you want to trust him in. Now, the only other lefty is Richard Lovelady. He had pitched the previous 2 days. I asked Blake Butera after the game if there was any consideration using him. He said, nope, that wasn't on the table. He was not going to use him 3 days in a row.
No, that wasn't on the table.
Why?
3 in a row. We don't want to do that.
their bullpen was pretty much on fumes at the end of this road trip. They threw a lot. And even though the starters were good, and even though they won all these games, there were some high pitch counts from their relievers in recent days that made several of them unavailable. Brad Lord was unavailable for this game. Clayton Beeter had pitched 2 days in a row. He's one of their high leverage guys. They weren't going to go to him for a third straight. Lovelady had gone, obviously, the last 2 days. The only other guy who may have been fresh at this point would have been Riley Cornelio. Now, that's not somebody you can throw into that situation at all. Now, I think what this really raises the question, and we've kind of alluded to this at times here, is their bullpen construction really the best that it should be for a team that, yes, is now in a wild card race? If it's strictly about development, you can say, okay, it's all right to have some of these guys who are designed to pitch every 3 or 4 days for multiple innings, but can't be used back to back or 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, that kind of thing. That's the problem with too many of their relievers right now. This is not necessarily a bullpen that's built to give you quick bursts, pitch out of jams, traditional short inning relievers. They have a few of those, but they have a lot of long men and especially young guys who've been starters in the past that are not really projected as relievers, but are kind of learning how to do it. So you can certainly question the bullpen construction here. We've mentioned his name a bunch. PJ Poulin, still not here. I believe Friday is the first day he's finally eligible to return after his demotion 15 days prior. I would not be shocked if we see him on Friday in exchange for someone else. I don't know that he would have gotten through this one, but he at least would be a more traditional option for that point in the game. It was ugly. The options that Blake Butera had down the stretch were not great. The only other argument you can make is that maybe Ribalta, after getting 3 relatively quick outs in the 8th, could have come back for the 9th. But if he gets into trouble or his pitch count gets up, and he had thrown the day before as well, you're still going to face those lefties and still have to decide what you want to do. So I'm not saying Butera managed this all perfectly, but the options he had were not great for this particular type of situation.
No, they were not. Mitchell Parker right now is a guy who you look at and you say, how do you have any confidence with him in a big spot? How does he have any confidence in himself in a big spot? Man, it doesn't seem likely that he's at the major league level for much longer. I guess we'll see. But Parker now at the major league level in this regular season, 17 games, all in relief, 32 innings, ERA 5.91, whip 1.34. He has allowed 8 home runs in his 32 innings. It's not just about Parker in this game. Paxton Schultz was really bad. Gus Varland was really bad. So, we're not just going to put this all on Mitchell Parker. But one thing I do wonder about with Blake Butera's bullpen management, and I brought this up a few times, when a guy comes in and pitches really well on a low number of pitches, why that guy doesn't stay in the game. We're seeing this a lot where someone comes in, looks pretty good, and looks pretty good over like 10, 11, 12 pitches, and then gets pulled for like the next guy who Butera had in mind to come into the game. And there's a domino effect with something like that. Like I go back to the 6-3 win at the Giants late night on Tuesday night. Clayton Beeter in that game, a perfect bottom of the 8th on just 11 pitches. And then he gets pulled in favor of Orlando Ribalta, who worked the bottom of the 9th, allowed 1 run in 1 inning. But it's like in a spot like that, you don't have a real closer. Why can't you just stick with Beeter? And even if it's not necessarily what you most want to do in that game, if you're thinking about the day after or 2 days later, that's the kind of thing that could come back to help you out. And, you think about this game with the bullpen on fumes and you essentially only have Mitchell Parker as an option. That's not a spot that you want to be in, man. That is not a spot you want to be in. Now, again, you were up by 8 runs, so it should have never come down to this. We understand that. But, if you're thinking as a manager should, which is you plan for like every possible scenario, I wonder if at some point we do see Butera try to take advantage of when he brings a reliever into a game and the guy looks good and looks good on a low number of pitches. You just keep the guy in the game for another inning to see if he can give you another inning.
Right. I think that may be a tweak and something worth exploring from his perspective. Now, you could say that in this game that he did do that with Paxton Schultz, who pitched the bottom of the 7th, had a scoreless inning. Huge lead they have at this point. He comes back for the 8th. It's his second inning. That's what you should be doing with such a big lead. And then he can't retire any of the 5 batters that he faced. Parker gave up the game-winning grand slam. Schultz set everything in motion with that appearance in the 8th inning, and he took full responsibility for that. He said, when you're the first man up from the bullpen with a big lead, it's your job to set the tone for everyone else, and he failed in that regard.
Ultimately, that's where I feel the most disappointed. It was my job coming first out of the bullpen to set the tone, and I did a terrible job there, and I'm going to take full responsibility. So my job to go back, look at this, find what I need to do right, and never let this happen again.
And now Butera is going to have to start doing things that he wasn't ever expecting to have to do in what was a 9-1 game. But yes, you can argue that, more 2-inning appearances, more of a feel for, hey, this guy's on a roll. Let's roll with that. Let's keep him going. There is something to be said for that. I think one thing that he may really have to start doing and approaching these games is to stop thinking about lefty-righty being the be-all, end-all. A good right-handed reliever is better than a bad left-handed reliever, no matter who you're facing. And once you got to that point, like I said, Varland, he struggled the first 3 batters. Maybe just see if he can figure it out. He has been in those spots. He's come through for them, getting out of some jams, closing out some games. Maybe he wouldn't have. But I think we knew that Parker, just because he's left-handed, facing Jung-Hoo Lee was just impossible to stop in this series. And then Bryce Eldridge, the really talented young rookie. I don't know that the lefty-righty matchup really mattered there, and that maybe it would be better to just stick with somebody who in theory is a better right-handed option for you. I'll also say this discussion we're having right now, I think it's kind of great that we can have this sort of discussion, because this is not something that we have been able to do with this team in a long time, where a loss like this, they've had some bad losses over the last few years, but deep down, it didn't really feel like it mattered that much in the big picture. This one did feel that way. They were this close to sweeping the series, going 5-1 on the road trip, heading home 3 games over 500 and in wild card position. And then that happened. It should sting. And I thought it was interesting that Butera afterwards, he actually went into the clubhouse and gathered the guys up for just a real quick thing and told them, yes, this should hurt. Once you get out of here, out of this clubhouse, it's over with. Look ahead to the off day and then a game on Friday.
Letting this one sting for a little bit. It's quiet in there right now. They're pretty upset about it, which is a good tell or a good sign of a competitive team that wants to win and expects to win.
But I think it's a good sign that it does hurt as much, because that tells you the bar has been raised, that a loss like this, as bad as it was, feels worse because of the position they put themselves in.
Yeah, and the Nats were so the better team in this series. The Giants are not a good team, and so to see the Nats not sweep, I know that's greedy, right? Expecting a sweep, but the Nats were in position to sweep this series and should have swept this series, and that the Nats did not do that is a disappointment. But to your point, that's maybe the biggest endorsement of what's going on with this team right now, that we're disappointed that the team went 4-2 on the road trip instead of 5-1. I do also want to say this, for all of the improvement in the relief pitching in recent weeks, the overall relief pitching numbers for this team still are really bad. And if you want to pinpoint a true weakness for the 2026 Nats, it is the relief pitching more so than the starting pitching. The Nats now have a relief pitching ERA of 4.83, a relief pitching whip of 144, and have allowed by far the most relief pitching home runs in the majors at 48. This is the weakness. This is the problem. And, like we keep saying, we'll see what happens the rest of the way here with the Nats. But if the Nats do end up faltering or do end up slumping, I would think it's going to be the bullpen. And we've seen some signs here lately. 2 of the last 3 series, the bullpen has been a problem. Was a problem in the 3-game sweep to the Marlins, then was good in the Nats winning 2 out of 3 games to begin this road trip. The series win at the Arizona Diamondbacks last weekend, but then ended up being bad again in this series at the Giants. Going to be interesting to see if this bullpen can somehow get back together and get back to being in a good place, as was the case just a few series ago, or is this just what the bullpen is? Like I said, overall, the numbers are quite bad.
They were probably outperforming their talent there for a little while, because it's mostly the same guys. And we know that there's not a lot of proven arms in that group, and the construction of it has been a little bit questionable and really piecemeal here at times. So for sure, I agree. When you look at the rotation, all 5 guys right now are giving them a chance to win. Even on their off nights, they've still been pretty much good enough. And as we've discussed, the resurrection of Miles Mikolas and Zach Littell to be actually really good quality bulk guys or starters for them has been a huge reason for the turnaround for them. So it does come down to the bullpen, and we've got a long way to go. It's still almost 2 months until then. But if, and this is a huge if, they are in a position come the beginning of August as they approach the trade deadline, and they are actually in this race, and they are actually considering adding some pieces to help them down the stretch. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, even if they are in the race. But if they did do that, I would think the number one priority for Paul Taboni would be one or more experienced relievers who can help them close out games that this group right now is having trouble doing at times.
This is sports broadcaster Ben Raby and a longtime listener to the Nats Chat podcast. A while back, I was in the market for a personal trainers, and my ears perked up last season when I heard an ad from show sponsor Table to Mat. Proving the power of advertising, I reached out and eventually began a training program with Chad, and boy, am I ever glad I did. Chad will work with you to devise a personal program. The communication, the flexible scheduling, and the setup at his home gym are all great. I legitimately bounced around trainers and gym programs for years, and I've never had a more productive and enjoyable experience than working with Chad. Do what I did. Visit him online at tabletomat.com. That's table, the number 2, and mat, M-A-T, tabletomat.com. Reach out to Chad. Hear the terrific workout programs he can build for you. Plus, like you, he's a huge Nats fan.
Cruz walked to a lead-off second. Ray sets. Left-hander deals, and Lyle swings and loops one shallow left. This may fall. It's going to drop in for a base hit. Cruz around third. He will score as the left fielder Gilbert up with it plays it into second base. So Dalen Lyle bloops one over the infield, dropping in shallow left toward the line for the base hit. It is 34th run batted of the year. The Nationals able to add a run with 2 out and nobody on. A single, a steal, another single, and it's now the Nationals 3 and the Giants nothing.
Well, the funny thing about this 11-10 walk-off loss at the Giants on Wednesday is that there were so many positives for the Nats. The Nats starting pitcher in this game was Foster Griffin. He again was good. He allowed 1 run in 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, no walks, gave up 6 hits, which were a home run and 5 singles. He issued a wild pitch, but he threw a lot of strikes, 100 pitches, 72 strikes, just 28 balls. So the home run came in the bottom of the 6th. Griffin gave up a 1-out solo homer by Matt Chapman to left center on an 0-2 pitch to cut the Nats lead to 6-1. The homer going a projected 421 feet per Statcast. But Griffin otherwise did well, and he is right back on track. You know, for over a few starts, didn't look his best, wasn't his best, but he lately has been right back to where he was earlier in the season. His overall numbers now 14 games, all starts, ERA 3.46, whip 1.09. It kind of gets forgotten with what happened with the bullpen, but Foster Griffin in this game was really good.
He should have gotten the win. It would have been his 8th win of the year. He would have been 8-2 with that 3.46 ERA. If there's one nit to pick with this one, he threw a lot of pitches early. He was at 56 pitches through 3 innings, and it looked like it might be a short day for him, even though he had not allowed a run. But he got a really good, quick 7-pitch bottom of the 4th, and that put him on track to go the full 6 on 100 pitches. Now, maybe deep down he's feeling to himself, I should have gone 7 today, but that's a lot to ask, and that's not the reason that they lost this game. He continues to impress. The further and further we go along in this, the more you say that what we have seen from him is real and it's not about to come crashing down. Doesn't mean he's not going to have some bad starts along the way, but he had that little blip of a couple of rough starts and he's come back really strong since then. I think we have to view this as real, what Foster Griffin is doing for them. And it's been so important to have that just reliable, I'm going to call him a veteran. I know he doesn't have a lot of big league experience, but on this staff, he is a veteran. In your rotation, it has been extremely valuable for this team to have him. And personally, I hope he keeps pitching here for a while because there are a lot of reasons to think that he can help this team, not just this year, but maybe beyond.
And no signs of the back tightness. As you may recall, Griffin in his last outing, the Nats 14-1 win at the Arizona Diamondbacks late night this past Friday night, pitched really well, but got pulled from the game due to back tightness. 1 run in 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, no walks. And then there was the Nats offense, which did more than enough to win this game. 10 runs, 14 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 11 singles. 1 walk, 6 for 11 with runners in scoring position. 5 for 5 on stolen bases. The Nats ran all over the Giants. So we had what happened in the top of the 6th. The Nats scoring 4 runs on 5 consecutive 2-out singles. The Nats got to the Giants starting pitcher, who was the former Nats prospect Robbie Ray. He officially allowed 5 runs in 5 2/3 innings. But up and down the lineup, you had production from this Nats lineup, which of course has been so good. The 2 homers coming from James Wood and Curtis Mead. James Wood as the Nats starting DH and number 1 batter, 1 for 4 with a 2-run homer and a walk. Wood in the Nats 2-run third, a 1-out opposite field 2-run homer to left center for a 2-0 Nats lead. Curtis Mead, he is the Nats starting third baseman and number 2 batter, 2 for 5 with a solo homer and a single. Mentioned this earlier, Mead homered in the 9th. The Nats 1-run 9th, a leadoff full count homer to left field for a 10-6 Nats lead. Dalen Lyle, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 5 batter, 4 for 5 with 2 RBI singles and 2 other singles. And he went 2 for 2 on stolen bases. Luis Garcia Jr. came off the bench to pinch hit and play first base, 1 for 2 with an RBI double. He and the Nats 3-run 7th had a pinch opposite field RBI double off the left field wall to put the Nats up 7-1. So the offense in this game, really good. The 5 for 5 on stolen bases was something. The Nats had their way with the Giants in terms of the running game in this game.
Yeah, as you said, there were actually so many good things they did in this game. You try to remember that fact, and that unfortunately what happened in 2 innings at the end of the game erased everything else, but it really shouldn't. They took full control of this game from an offensive standpoint, a combination of power, the combination of, as Dusty Baker used to call them, exit hits, some very well-placed, not all that hardly struck base hits. And as you said, the base running was outstanding. They took every extra 90 feet that they were afforded by the Giants, and that made a huge difference in that 6th inning when they scored 4 runs and started to blow the game open. You had Dylan Cruz and Jacob Young both with singles and then immediately stealing second base to put themselves in position to then score on another hit after that. They were having their way with the Giants, and I thought that was such a great sign of this team. As we've talked about, they have shown that there are multiple ways for them to score big. Yes, the home run has been there a lot, but they've also found a way to manufacture some of these runs. Their base running is much improved from where it's been in the past, and they use that to their advantage. It's a shame that all this kind of gets brushed off by the wayside because there was so much good that they did in this game.
Hello, Montgomery County, Maryland listeners of Nats Chat. This is for you. I'm Steve Solomon, candidate for Montgomery County Council at Large. You may remember me from my 20 years on local radio as Solly at the Team 980, where I worked with Nats Chat's own Al Galdi, Mark Zuckerman, and Tim Shovers. I myself am a podcaster now as well. I'm asking for your vote for Montgomery County Council at Large. Over the last 10 years, I've gotten much more involved in local issues in Montgomery County. I'm an active member of my civic association, the County Civic Federation. I volunteer at nonprofits. I serve on the board of directors of the Montgomery County Sports Hall of Fame, the Sports Advisory Committee, and the Library Board. Montgomery County is a great place to live. We've got incredible parks, libraries, restaurants, businesses, and most of all, people. That's why I'm running, because I think we can do better. Whether it's at economic development and bringing in more businesses, helping the small businesses that are already here by streamlining permitting and cutting the red tape on inspections, or growing our partnerships with our thousands of amazing nonprofits. Doing those things will give us more money to keep all the services and programs we love funded, like programs for our seniors, taking care of homeowners and renters, and funding our parks, libraries, and rec centers. Once again, this is Steve Solomon. I'm running for Montgomery County Council at Large, and I'm asking for your vote. Early voting runs June 11th through June 18th. Election Day is June 23rd. You can learn more about me or how to contact me at votestevesolomon.com.
Chapman's backed up at third. Now the pitch. And a swing and a drive left center field deep, sending Cox way back to the warning track. Up to the wall, he leaps, and he can't get it. It's gone. Goodbye. It's a 2-run homer for James Wood, just clearing the wall to the left of the 399 marker and into the bleachers. Bang, zoom goes James Wood. It's home run number 18, RBIs 42 and 43. And the Nationals are on the board first here in the top of the third inning. It's Washington 2 and San Francisco nothing.
And the Nats did what they did offensively despite shortstop C.J. Abrams not playing in this game. A rare off day for Abrams. It's always interesting to me, guys like Abrams who play basically every day when they are given an off day. And in this instance, it seems to be strategic. Give them the off day on Wednesday with the team having an off day on Thursday. But like when the Nats have one of those runs of, 16 games in 16 days, 17 games in 17 days, you don't see an Abrams get a day off. And I wonder if the Nats have data that says if the guy gets 2 consecutive days off, that's actually more beneficial than a day off in the middle of a lengthy stretch with no scheduled days off. It would be interesting to know the answer to something like that. But obviously, this was done with some thought, giving Abrams the day off here with the off day coming on Thursday.
Yeah, this was definitely calculated on their part. It's a quick turnaround, day game after night game, long road trip. You're facing a lefty in Robbie Ray. And yes, the extra off day after that. And I know for some fans, you might say, well, wait a minute, he gets a day off on Thursday. Why does he need one now? No, that's calculated to give him 48 hours. He has played so much for them, played so well for them, that doing this maybe helps him be fresher when that next homestand starts. Remember, last year, he and James Wood in particular wore down in the second half, and they talked about physically and mentally they weren't the same. Any chance you can find right now to help them maintain their bodies and their minds, I think is worth it. And yes, you go into this knowing you've already won the series, knowing you already have a winning road trip. If they win this game, it's kind of like gravy. And I know some people may not want to hear that, but that is the approach when it's still early June and you're trying to keep your best players productive and healthy for a long season ahead. So I took no issue with it. I think it made perfect sense to do it. And I think there probably was a scenario. It didn't come up because of the way that comeback happened, but there probably was a scenario where they would have used him off the bench if the right situation called for it as a pinch hitter or something late in the game. So it's not like he was totally off, but you don't force that issue. You want to give him a day off, and as long as the game doesn't require it, you let him have that day off.
Well, no game for the Nats on Thursday, thankfully. Next up for them is a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the Seattle Mariners at Nationals Park. The Nets have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1, Friday evening at 6:45, Zach Littell. Game 2, Saturday afternoon at 4:05, Cade Cavalli, and Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 1:35, Miles Michaelis. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website at tabletomat.com. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. You can call Table to Mat at 240-388-2206. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
And now the delivery swung on and ripped deep to left field. This is a shot to go. It's over the head of Castro and over the wall. Into the back of the visitors' bullpen. 1-0 Red Wings. King hits a home run on an 0-2 pitch. A hanging changeup, and Seaver did not miss it.